Maqasidic Tafsir.
Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end? Pursuing the higher aim, learning the meaning of every page. Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end?
Assalamu alaikum. Sunnahfollowers presents a new class, the Maqasidic Tafsir, being taught and brought to you by Ustada lailanasheeba. Please stay tuned, streaming on all major platforms, right here on channel Sunnahfollowers.
Ina alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salamallah, wa rasulallah. I want to welcome everybody to our series entitled The Maqasidic Tafsir. The Maqasidic Tafsir. And what we're doing in this class, we're studying from the book written by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid, in which he breaks down the meaning of the Quran, the highest meaning, the most correct meaning that any of us can gain as a Muslim of the Quran, so we can in turn implement that meaning into our personal lives. And as we talked about, when we say Maqasidic, that means the higher aim is to aim to understand this religion, to aim to understand the Quran the way the companions did, because Allah says that they were the best of this nation, especially those who were with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's what Maqasidic is all about, interpreting the meaning of the Quran, and so that you can in turn can apply it to your life and live by it. So you can be a walking Quran, like our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. No one can be like him, of course, but we should aspire to try to emulate him and his behavior and his actions and how he spoke and how he handled himself with others, how he dealt with the unbelievers, how he dealt with the believers, and how he dealt with the hypocrites. So that's Maqasidic, my understanding. I am aiming high to apply the correct understanding of the Quran to myself. And that understanding is not based on a method. That understanding is not based on opinions. That understanding is not based on scholarly views. It's based on how the original companions understood it to be. And they were under the leadership of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And today what we're going to do is we're covering pages 24 through 29. And just to share some of the feedback I've gotten about this class, again, I want everyone to go to Amazon.com and get a copy of this book. The book is only $19.99. The book is just $19.99. That's nothing. I pay $24 a day for Starbucks. Seriously. I spend $24 a day on Starbucks. So what's $19.99 off to pay to understand your religion better? To be able to reform yourself, change your condition of yourself to that which is pleasing to Allah. And today, pages 24 through 29, again, a lot of you see that buying this book, reading it on your own is not going to be of any benefit to you, because that's how Allah protected and preserved this religion. You can never bypass the people of knowledge. I repeat, you can never bypass the people of knowledge. I repeat again, you can never bypass the people of knowledge. You can buy this book, read it, and I'm here to tell you, you're going to walk away with no understanding of anything. You have to learn from the people of knowledge. Who are the people of knowledge? These are the women and men who have devoted their entire lives to learning this religion from other people of knowledge, from other people who have devoted their lives to learning this religion, for who've also learned from others who devoted their lives. When Sheikh Saud gave you guys ijazah, or that certificate on that hadith, he did that to show you that our knowledge, the people of knowledge, our knowledge is inherited from the prophets. The chain of knowledge goes all the way back to those companions, just like the hadiths should trace back to the prophet, directly to the prophet. The same with the people of knowledge. My teacher, who I learned from, who he learned from, it traces back to those companions, to the prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's the people of knowledge. So you have to learn from the people of knowledge. You're not going to be able to teach yourself this deen. And this book is an example. So tonight what we're going to do is cover pages 24 through 29. And what Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd does in this beautiful book is he breaks down to you in layman terms how the scholars became the scholars that they are. The scholars of the Quran, the scholars of the interpretation. Okay, so let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen. Okay, so tonight we're going to be covering pages 24 through 29 of the book. And we're going to give examples. Last time we met, we talked about Tafsir Bil Mathur. Quiz right quick. Who can tell me what is Tafsir Bil Mathur? What is that? What does that mean in English? What is that referring to? What is Tafsir Bil Mathur? That's what we talked about the last time we met. What is that? When I tell you that I'm going to teach you about, I'm going to give you a Tafsir Bil Mathur. What am I saying in English? I'm giving you what?
An interpretation based on the Quran and Hadith.
Is that correct, guys? An interpretation based on Quran and Hadith?
Well, the interpretation is explaining from the Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the statements from the companions.
Okay, exactly. When I tell you that I'm going to give you a Tafsir Bil Mathur, I'm telling you that I'm going to interpretate to you the meaning of a verse of the Quran as told to us by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or from one of his companions, or from the Quran itself based on a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or a hadith from one of his companions. Let's see, Miss Jackson, she wrote, that's the explanation from the Quran, the Prophet, or the companions of the Prophet. Exactly, Miss Jackson. You're doing so good. Miss Jackson's been coming here for a little while now, and mashallah, I'm so proud of her understanding of this religion, mashallah. So if I'm going to give you a Tafsir Bil Mathur, I'm going to give you the interpretation of a verse of the Quran that's based on a hadith, either a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or a hadith from one of his companions, or a hadith from the Prophet or his companions, where Allah explains the meaning of this verse through another Quranic verse. And there's different examples of these types of interpretations, or tafsir. Tafsir is an Arabic word that means interpretation. And that's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover three or four interpretations of the Quran, and I'm going to leave the last two for the next time we meet on Monday. Monday. So let's look at the first. But first of all, I want to talk about interpretations based on Arabic linguistics. And I forgot to talk about this the last time we met. So I wanted to talk about this first. Remember, the Arabic language is another tool that an interpreter uses to explain the Quran. Okay? And since the Quran was revealed in Arabic, you have to have knowledge of the original Arabic language, the Fusha, not the slang. You have to know the grammar of it in order to accurately interpret the Quranic script. That's you have to be like Dr. Asim. Dr. Asim is a PhD in the Quranic script. So you have to, this deals with a specialized form of the Arabic language. And there are several verses of the Quran for which there is no circumstance of the revelation, or there's no reason for their revelation. So I hope you guys understand that. There are some verses of the Quran, there's several of them. Remember, I told you guys the Quran is the words of Allah. Something happened. Something had to happen for Allah to say what he said. Well, guess what? There are several verses that were sent down that nothing happened. They were just words that Allah said that didn't have to do with anything. So, you know, that's when people will look at the Arabic linguistics. That's when the interpreter or the mufassir will look at the Arabic language to help understand the meaning of them. And there are several verses like that, okay? Also, some verses of the Quran, again, Allah, they're words that Allah sent down, but they don't have evidence-based explanations from the hadith. In other words, the Prophet ﷺ didn't explain the meaning of them, nor did any of the companions. So once again, the scholar of the Quran will have to look to the Arabic linguistics, you know, for the meaning. Okay, so I want y'all to remember that whenever there's no evidence from the hadith of the Prophet or the companions, and there is nothing that happened, no circumstance that happened, you know, as to why Allah sent it down, that's when they turn to the linguistics. And I hope that's understood. Okay. We have to make note of this, though. When it comes to Arabic linguistics, the Quran interpreter should never use the linguistic science exclusive of the hadiths. Does everybody understand that? You can't be a person like a lot of the Christian Arabs. By the way, one of my brothers, my brother Isa, you guys know of him. He taught many of you how to read the Quran. My brother Isa, he spends a lot of time debating with the Christian Arabs, because there's a lot of Christian Arabs that go to school. They have the knowledge of the linguistics of Arabic. They learn the Fusha, and then they try to use that to disprove the Quran. Well, my brother Isa also knows the Fusha. He learned the Fusha. And that's what the type of dawah, I mean, I don't like it, but that's the type of dawah he does. He will have those Christian Arabs come on, and they debate with him, trying to disprove the Quran just based on linguistics. And one of the things that he tries to let them understand, you can never just use linguistics. You have to know the Sunnah. You have to know the Prophet ﷺ's words, what he said. You got to know what the companions said. Okay, we don't just rely, because just relying on linguistics can confuse you. And a big example of that is when Allah speaks about the new moon. For example, Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, the month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran as a guidance for the people with clear proofs of guidance and evidence. So whoever cites the new moon, let him fast it. This is an example that you can't just depend on the linguistics. A scholar who is not well grounded in the hadiths and the other matters, will manipulate this verse to try to make it say something that it doesn't mean. They might take one of the words in this verse and say that word means something that it doesn't mean. Because remember, when it comes to linguistics, one Arabic word can mean 10 different things. That's why you have to look to see what happened. Who, what, where, when, why. What did the prophet say this was referring to? What did the companions say? Because that's the linguistics of Arabic. One word can mean a bunch of things. Example, kohor. How many of you women have been told that it's haram to wear makeup? There is nothing, I repeat, there is nothing, I repeat, there is nothing in Islam that says it's haram for women to wear makeup. You look at the hadith. How many hadiths use the word kohor? How many hadiths use the word henna? Kohor is makeup. It's eye makeup. Henna is makeup. The prophet's wives wore kohor. The prophet's wives wore henna. The women wore kohor out in the public. The women wore henna. So that's what I'm saying. You can't just depend on linguistics alone. You have to look to the Sunnah. When you look to the Sunnah, you will see that the prophet's wives wore kohol out the house and henna too on their hands and on their faces. Henna served a lot of purposes back in that day. It's a makeup. Okay? So we can't just be like the Christian Arabs and say it's all about the linguistics, because it's not. You have to use all 5 of the things we talked about. And so now what I want to go into detail about is examples of Tafsir Bil Mathur. Examples of Tafsir Bil Mathur, the type of tafsir that many of the scholars today use to help get a meaning, the highest aim of a meaning of the verses of the Quran. And let's talk about them. First of all, I want to let everybody know, and I tell my students this all the time, there's no such thing as going out and buying a book. You're not going to find no book that's going to give you the history of Islam. There's no such thing. There's no tafsir book that's going to sit down and tell you why Allah sent this verse down, what happened, and give you the history. That's how Allah protected this religion. The Prophet Muhammad was clear. He said, you're gonna have to learn from the people of knowledge. Everything traces back to our prophet. That's through knowledge, through who they learned from. So there are no perfect books of tafsir. There's problems with every single one, not just Ibn Kathir's. There's problem with all the tafsir books. Each one of them have their strengths. Each one of them have their weak points. And again, this is the way Allah preserved our religion, because it allows us as students the benefit of diversity. You know, we don't blindly follow anyone but the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Does everybody understand that? If I were to depend on only one book's interpretation, I could end up blindly following that one person. Okay, when that one person may not have heard about a hadith here. That one person may not have known about this here. So there's strengths and weaknesses in all of those tafsir books. And even if you come upon, look at the most accurate form, the most accurate tafsir has a problem too. It can be so large that it's unreadable. What does that mean? Even this book, this is the Maqasidic Tafsir. This book is written by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd. I have never seen anyone break down the meaning of the Quran in plain, simple English, how it's developed and all of that, like Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd. This is a series of books. But look how many of you are complaining that y'all can't read it. See? It's so unreadable. That's the problem. Okay, that's how Allah made this religion. So that way you just don't depend on Kareem Abu Zayd's Maqasidic Tafsir. Okay? You're still going to have to look at something else. You're going to have lailanasheeba break it down to you. We're using Kareem Abu Zayd's book. Some of the words, I have to change them around to make them more understandable. You're going to have Layla change it around to make it readable. Okay, so that's just the way Allah protects our religion, you know, and that shows the hikmah of Allah, the beauty of Allah, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also, when we look at the different evidence-based interpretations, you will notice with the different books that some put more emphasis on the hadiths, like Tabari. Tabari puts more emphasis on the hadith. And then you got some that lean towards other sciences too. Let me give y'all an example y'all can relate to. A lot of you asked me about, what's his name? Ali, Muhammad Ali's book. And you guys always ask me about his commentary. His commentary, you know, is his little interpretation. He mixes other stuff into his commentary that's not correct. Alexander the Great, how could he have been dual carnane? That's ridiculous. Alexander the Great was a homosexual. Plus, he came after dual carnane. Okay? You know, but what Muhammad Ali did is he was all about trying to convert, to trying to convince the Christians to convert to Islam. So he mixed a lot of Hellenistic views and Greek views and Roman views from those countries that became Christian into his interpretation or his commentary. Okay, so you will find this, you know, like I said, there's strengths and weaknesses. And that's why I tell you guys, don't read the commentary. The commentary of these English interpreted books is not really tafsir. They're not really considered tafsir. And that commentary is not part of the Quran. It's his opinion. That's Muhammad Ali's opinion. It's not really a tafsir. Okay, so let's talk about the real tafsirs. Number one, tafsir by At-Tabari. At-Tabari, also known as Jarir, Ibn Jarir. You guys may have heard me use this a lot. I've used a lot of his tafsir. Sheikh Morsi uses a lot of At-Tabari. Okay? This is Muhammad ibn Jarir. And that's when he died. He was from Iran. Remember the hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what he said before he died. He told his companions, you will be replaced by his people. And he pointed to Salman al-Farsi. What does that mean? After the companions died, who were the people that tried to keep their tradition going? The Imams of the Hadith. Imam Bukhari was Persian. At-Tabari was Persian. Muslim was Persian. They're the ones that tried to replace them with their sayings, their hadiths. Okay? And Ibn Jarir, his tafsir is the oldest one. His tafsir is the oldest of all. And I think that's why a lot of the scholars of the ulama use it. Because remember, the Prophet Muhammad said each generation will become further and further and further away from the truth. Each generation will become further and further and further away from the companions. So I think this is why the scholars of the ulama, most of them use at-Tabari. Okay. The earliest expressions of tafsir were from the companions themselves. Remember, Ibn Abbas explained the meaning of a lot of verses. Aisha, radiallahu anha, explained the meaning. Okay. And then we had other noble scholars of the ulama, such as Ibn Jubair. You guys may have heard me mention him before. Sufyan. Oh, mashallah. You heard me mention him before. Sufyan ibn Uyayna. They had some manuscripts of tafsir, but they were not preserved. They ended up becoming, lost over time. Okay. So after that, we have Ibn Jarir's. The earliest known complete manuscript, called Tafsir al-Kabir by Muqatil ibn Sulaiman al-Baqi. This was the earliest known manuscript, but it hasn't even to this day been fully evaluated and rendered useful to lay people such as us. So what we have as the earliest, since the others weren't preserved, is at-Tabari's interpretation. Okay, so good and bad points. Like we said, there's good and bad points about all the tafsir. Now, Ibn Jarir, he utilized many branches of knowledge to deduce or to come up with different religious rulings, different religious verdicts, but he included a lot of narrations from the Jews and the Christians in his tafsir. And you're going to find that most of them did this. That's a big problem with Ibn Kathir today. Y'all got his in English. Even when we do the stories of the prophets of Allah, that book is written by Ibn Kathir. You will see Ibn Kathir gives you a lot of what the Christians said and what the Jews said. They all did that. But that's also something that weakens what they say, because as the Prophet Muhammad said, we can't believe them, nor can we disbelieve it. Because their books are gone. Their books were destroyed. So you don't know if what they're saying is truthful or not. The good about at-Tabari is he refuted the opinions of the Mu'tazilah. That's what makes his tafsir one of the best. He refuted the opinions of the Mu'tazilah. And as you guys know, the Mu'tazilah, they came from up out of Persia too, and they were influenced by the Greeks and all of that. We still have them today, the PhDs in psychology, the psychology of things, the philosophy of things. The good thing is that at-Tabari refuted that crap. His tafsir became the source. This is what makes it one of the best. His tafsir became the source and the example for the other books that came after it. You hear that from Mina Fresno? Fresno, do you hear me? You hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Tafsir of Kathir is not the best. This is. In fact, he became the source and example for the books that followed after them. And then Sheikh Kareem gives you a list. There it is. Ibn Kathir is listed there. You know, Ibn Kathir used Ibn Jarir as a source. How many of you have read the book, The Prophets of Allah? How many times have Ibn Kathir referred to Ibn Jarir? Ibn Jarir, that's a Tabari. He used a Tabari as his source. That's why I would say out of all the books mentioned here, this is the best. This is my opinion. Okay? All right. So that's the Tabari.
Speak on for the English speaker.
It's not in English, though. That's the problem. Yeah. We'll talk about it. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay. Then now we're going to move to the next tafsir. This is a tafsir by Ibn Hatim. He wrote the tafsir of the Quran known as Al-Adim. This is a compilation of hadiths from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, based on the Prophet's understanding and the companions and their successors, the students of the companions. This is a good tafsir too, okay? And he, just like Ibn Jarir or At-Tabari, he was a famous hadith, scholar of hadith too. He was a scholar of hadith too. And he was one of the imams of Jarh wa Ta'dil. And among his students were Abu Dawood. Y'all know the hadith of Abu Dawood. Also, Abu Abdurrahman an-Nasai. You guys know I use some of their hadiths. But again, we have to be careful because a lot of the hadiths in Abu Dawood are not authentic. And Nasai, okay? But he was their teacher. Ibn Abi Hatim al-Razi. Ibn Abi Hatim al-Razi was their teacher. Okay? And the good thing about his tafsir is he kept his comments to a minimum. He didn't put his opinion and his comments in that much. And he compiled thousands of hadiths from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the first three generations. But again, we have to be careful because some of those hadiths, a lot of them are not authentic. That's why I still prefer, I personally, At-Tabari. Okay? Then the next example of a Tafsir Bil Mathur is the Tafsir of Samarkandi Abu al-Layth. Y'all probably have heard Abu al-Layth. That's the name that you hear a lot. You may hear Abu al-Layth's Tafsir. He was known as the Imam of India. You guys remember that hadith we talked about, where we talked about the signs of the last hour, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about the best of this nation are those who will be with the Mahdi and those who took India. Well, that's where Abu al-Layth, he was the Imam of India. He became the Imam of India. He too based his interpretations on the hadiths of the Prophet and the companions and their successors. However, his work is criticized because he's got some hadiths too that cannot be proven to be authentic because of the chain of narrators. Although he always quoted hadiths from the companions, he neglected to properly document the chains of transmission. Okay, so that's the weakness of his. Like I said, you're going to find problems with them all. The ones that have the most authentic to me is Ibn Jarir, which is At-Tabari. But like I said, the problem with his is that Christian stuff and that Israeli stuff. Okay. So if you're going to use the Tafsir of Abu al-Layth, it's kind of hard to fully benefit because you don't know the authenticity of his evidences. That's a big problem. I stay away from his Tafsir. I personally stay away from it completely. Anything that's doubtful, you know, Layla, she's staying away. Just like I don't use much of Ibn Abi Hatim either, because like I said, a lot of hadiths that he may use are questionable. All right. Another tafsir is the tafsir by al-Baghawi. You might have heard of his. A lot of people use it. Al-Baghawi was a famous hadith scholar too. All of these men were scholars of hadith. All of them were scholars of hadith. And you guys may have heard of al-Baghawi because he's known for his book, Sharh Sunnah. And by the way, I've taught that book here. I believe Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atli rewrote that book and I taught it. I think I taught that book to you guys. Okay, here from Sheikh Atli's. And also, guys, hold on for 1 second. I'm not stupid. Hold on. Let me check something right quick, guys. Okay, I got, don't let nobody in here. If you don't see no name or nothing, I ain't got time today. Not for my class today. I'm not going
I'm
to
watching.
Yeah, y'all see that? Because I don't even see the name. Don't let them in. All right, so I've taught this book, Sharh Sunnah, because Sheikh Atli, I think, rewrote it. I think I taught it here. And also, how many of you remember Sheikh Uthaymeen? MashaAllah, may Allah bless him, forgive him of his sins. Sheikh Uthaymeen, one of the friends of my teacher, Sheikh Morsi. And I love Sheikh Uthaymeen. May Allah bless him. Sheikh Uthaymeen references this tafsir in a lot of his fatwas. You know, when Sheikh Uthaymeen sent a lot of fatwas, he referenced him. I think Sheikh Atli likes al-Baghawi's tafsir too. Also, Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah would reference Baghawi's tafsir. Okay? And the good thing about al-Baghawi is he avoided the majority of weak and fabricated hadiths. And he mentioned all the chains of narrators to verify their authenticity. And he did not include the heretical concepts, you know, from the heretics. And he also included the linguistic element in his tafsir. And I think this is why Sheikh Atli likes him, because I think he's one of Sheikh Atli's favorites, tafsirs, because Sheikh Atli's into that too. Okay? The problems with his tafsir are that he too, just like At-Tabari, just like Ibn Jarir, like I told you, they all like to mention those Jewish narrations. He mentions Jewish narrations without critically analyzing them. And of course, you know, we can't use anything that the Jews say. That's the only flaw with his interpretation. But al-Baghawi, his tafsir is pretty good. A lot of people use it. Like I said, Sheikh Uthaymeen did. Sheikh Atli does. Sheikh Atli rewrote his book, you know. And I think Sheikh Morsi uses him too sometimes. Okay? And Jamali may use him too. Jamali is like Sheikh Morsi. I think Jamali uses At-Tabari mostly. Okay? And then that brings us to the last one I'm going to speak about today, which is the one that most of you are aware of because it's in English. This is Ibn Kathir. Now I'm going to tell y'all, I don't use Ibn Kathir's at all, and I don't like his tafsir. I don't like his tafsir because he too puts too much Jewish and Christian crap in it. But Ibn Kathir was a student of Ibn Taymiyyah. As you guys know, he was also a historian. He was also a scholar of the Hadith too. And his stuff is the easiest to read because he did simplify it. That's the strength of Ibn Kathir's tafsir. He begins with the Quran. He also includes what the Prophet said and the views of the companions and the Tabi'een. And then he'll give you his view at the end. So his is the most organized in English, because he tried to simplify it to the best of his ability. And even though he does mention the Jews and the Christians' narrations, he does warn against them. He'll say, don't take what I say to be true or not. This is what they said, although we don't know if this is true. He will say that. Now, in 1980, a new version of Ibn Kathir's tafsir was published, and I think I know the brother that published it in English, and he kept out what the Jews and Christians said. And that's the one that people use today. A lot of the people that don't understand the Arabic language, but they speak English, a lot of the English-speaking people use Ibn Kathir, but they use the 1980 abridged version. But again, Ibn Kathir, he shares the opinion of a Tabari in regards to the narrations of the Hadith. And you guys know me. Why do I care about the third generation when I got the first generation that told me about it? So that's why I don't use Ibn Kathir. I never have used his tafsir.